Steal the most money and jewelry on the Union Pacific Express train. Do you want to learn to play Colt Express?
In this video, we're going to take you through the full and concise rules for this game, and if you stay tuned till the end, you can pick up some tips along the way. Coming up. Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from Meeple University. So you do less reading, more playing.
So if you're new here, please consider subscribing and do hit the bell to be notified of when we post new videos.
Now let's get to the rules of Colt Express, game by Christophe Rambold, published by Ludonaut.
In Colt Express, players play as competing bandits attempting to rob the same train in the Wild West. Players will move around the train, attempting to rob the passengers of the money and jewels that they carry. They'll also need to be wary of the train's marshal, who guards a valuable strongbox, and be wary of each other, since the player who shoots the most opponents during the game gains a reputation as a gunslinger and a cash bonus that comes with it. The player who earns the most money, both in stolen goods and the gunslinger bonus over 5 rounds, wins the game. To set up, each player takes a character board, the 17 cards in the matching colour, and the matching meeple. Place a character card face up in the centre of the player board. Find the 6 cards which show the revolver barrel, and then place them in ascending order on this location, starting with the 1 bullet and going up to the one showing 6. You'll be left with the 10 cards which show your action icons in the corner. Shuffle these cards up and then place them on the right of your player board. Look through all of the purse tokens, which have values ranging between $250 and $500, and give each player a $250 purse face down. Next, set up the train. You'll start by placing as many carriages onto the table as there are players. Then add the locomotive to the front. Inside the locomotive, place a $1,000 strongbox token and the yellow Marshall Meeple. Place a number of purses and jewels into each carriage corresponding to this icon. Keep the purses face down to conceal their value. All jewels are worth $500. Choose a first player and place that player's meeple in the rearmost carriage. Going clockwise around the table, the second player is placed in the second rear carriage, the third player is placed in the rear carriage, the fourth in the second rear carriage, and so on. Next, you'll set up the train deck which tracks the game. Start by choosing one of the 3 brown station cards at random and placing it face down. Then, shuffle either the green or the light brown train cards, depending on your player count, and deal 4 of those on top of the station card. Keep the neutral bullet cards, which look like this, handy, and you're now ready to play. Colt Express is an action programming game. At the start of each round, each player will shuffle up all of their action cards and draw a hand of 6. The 6 cards drawn will be the choice of actions that that player has for this round. Next, draw the top card from the round deck. This will show you how many cards each player will play, and therefore how many actions each player may take in this round. It will also contain icons showing you any special effects in play for this round. In this case, each player will take 4 actions in the round, and the round will end with the train breaking. Next, you'll proceed to the programming phase. One at a time, starting from the first player, each player will take it in turns to choose a card from hand and then play it face up into a central pile. The player does not immediately take the action shown on the card. The action will be resolved later in the resolution phase. In this case, by playing this card first, Belle has declared that her first action will be to loot. Play then goes to the next player clockwise, who might play this card, indicating that that player's first action will be to climb. Play continues clockwise around the table in this manner until all players have played as many cards as there are card icons on the round card. This deck will then be flipped over and all of the actions resolved from top to bottom. On a player's turn, instead of playing a card into the programming pile, the player may skip playing a card in order to draw 3 new cards from the deck into hand. This means the player will have fewer actions for the round, but might be able to find the cards they really need for a later action. There are also some special turn icons on some of the round cards. The tunnel means that players will play their cards face down for this turn. So here, each player's first card for the round will be face up, but the second will be face down. This hides your actions from opponents and makes the later stages of the round more difficult to plan for. The speeding up icon allows each player to play 2 cards in a row on a single turn. This will give you a more certain way to chain actions together. And the switch icon reverses the turn order for a turn. So while in this round the normal turn order is purple, black, green, red, for the 4th turn, purple will still program first, but then the others, red, green, and black, will act in the reverse order. Next, we'll talk about resolving actions. The golden rule when resolving an action when its card comes up is that it is not optional. If it's possible to resolve it, you must resolve that action, even if it's disadvantageous to you. To resolve the climb action, you must move either from inside your current carriage onto its roof, or from the roof of your current carriage into the carriage. The move action resolves differently depending on whether you're inside a carriage or on the roof. From inside a carriage, you may move either 1 space forward or backward along the train. So from here, black could move either into this carriage or back to this one. You may never leave the train, so green could only move into this carriage. From a position on the roof, you may move 1, 2, or 3 spaces either forward or backward. So from this point, pink could move to any other carriage on the train. From this point, pink would be able to move as far forward as this carriage, but would not have enough distance to get to the locomotive. When resolving a move action, you cannot stay still. You must move at least 1 space, even if that is disadvantageous. And you must move in a single direction, so you could not circumvent that by moving 2 spaces like so. That is not allowed. The loot action allows a meeple to pick up 1 piece of loot from its current location. This can be a purse, a jewel, or a strongbox. Here, red could pick up any of these 4 items, pink could only take this purse from the roof. Remember that the strongbox is worth $1,000, jewels are worth $500 each, and purses are worth a random amount between $250 and $500. So you'll likely be taking those more expensive items before the purses. If you take the loot action in a space with no loot, then your action is wasted. You may look at the value of your own purses, but keep them face down until the end of the game. The 4th action is to fire, and this allows a player to shoot at an opponent. Choose a single opponent within shooting range. Within the carriages, this is an opponent in an adjacent carriage. So, if pink were shooting, then red and green would both be within range, but yellow would not be a viable target because the yellow meeple is the marshal, and the marshal cannot be shot, and the black meeple is in the same carriage and is therefore not a viable target for shooting. For a player standing on the roof, viable targets are the next meeples within line of sight, regardless of distance. So here, pink would be able to fire at either black or red, but not green because line of sight is blocked by red. Here, pink would now be able to shoot at either green or black, and once again, players cannot fire at an opponent on the same space. So green would be the only target within range of pink in this setup. If there are no viable targets, then the fire action is wasted. When shooting at an opponent successfully, take your top bullet card and then place it into that player's pile of action cards. On subsequent turns, players will start to pick up the bullet cards that they've been shot with during the game when they draw their hand of action cards. This card has no action associated, and so as you get shot through the game, your deck of cards will be diluted and you'll have fewer good actions available to you in each round. This increases the chances that you'll have to spend a turn drawing more cards from your deck. Remember that weakening an opponent's deck is not the only reason to shoot them through the game, as the player who shoots the most bullets will gain a $1,000 bonus to the final score. The 5th action is to punch, and this allows you to punch an opponent in the same location as you. This impacts your opponent in 2 ways. First, they will drop 1 piece of loot of your choice on the floor of your current location. Then you move them to an adjacent space of your choice. These same two effects occur whether you are inside the carriages or on the roof. You won't be able to pick up the item that's dropped until you play a loot card on a separate turn. Any purses you steal remain face down so that the rest of the players, including the puncher, cannot see the value. The final action is to move the marshal, which is represented by the yellow pawn. The marshal patrols the train, trying to protect the passengers from bandits like you. But he is malleable and his movements are controlled by your cards alone. When you play a marshal card, you may move the marshal one space to an adjacent carriage. The marshal always stays inside the train and never goes onto the roof. If at any point a bandit is in the same carriage as the marshal, whether that's because the marshal moves in or because the player moves in, then the player must take a neutral bullet card into their action deck, the same way they would have when they were shot by an opponent, and the player must then escape the marshal onto the roof of that carriage. Players are safe from the marshal while they are on the roof. Players can never shoot or punch the marshal. After all of the action cards have been resolved for a round, check your round card to see if it has an icon showing here next to all of the turn icons. This is called an event, and you'll resolve that event from the text at the back of the rulebook. Then all of the action cards that were played for the round are divided up by colour and returned to their owner. Players then shuffle up their entire action deck, which includes any leftover cards from hand from the last round, all the played cards, and any bullets that they've been given, and is ready to draw 6 cards again for the next round. Play then moves to the next round, and first player moves clockwise around the table. After 5 rounds are complete, the game is over. Players reveal and add up the money value of all of the loot that they hold at the end of the game. Then evaluate the gunslinger bonus by seeing which player or players have the fewest bullets remaining in their guns. All players who have the fewest or equal fewest may flip over their character cards to claim the $1,000 gunslinger bonus. Add up total money and the player with the most money wins. If tied, the player with the fewest total opposing bullet cards, including neutral cards in their deck, breaks the tie. If still tied, victory is shared. Each character in the game has a special ability. Doc draws 7 cards at the start of the round instead of 6. Ghost always treats the first turn of each round as if there is a tunnel, so Ghost's first card each round will always be played face down. Django has a very powerful gun, and so when Django shoots an opponent, that opponent is knocked backwards 1 space in the direction of the shot. This cannot push an opponent off the train. Cheyenne is a pickpocket, and when Cheyenne punches an opponent, if she chooses to make that opponent drop a purse, rather than a jewel or a strongbox, then she gets to keep that directly without having to loot it. Tuco has an additional range on shooting, and so from inside a carriage can shoot a player on top of that carriage, or from on top of a carriage can shoot a player inside it. Finally, Belle has a passive ability whereby she may only be punched or shot if she is the only opponent within a player's range. For example, here Red would normally be able to shoot either green or black, but in this scenario Red would be compelled to shoot green because of Belle's passive power. Of course, in this scenario, Red could shoot pink as normal. As with many action programming games, Colt Express will often be chaotic, and your best laid plans may be placed in ruins by the actions of opponents. Being punched by an opponent or being moved to the roof by a marshal are 2 actions which can leave you in a different position to where you thought you'd be, and that really can throw your entire round into turmoil. The game also comes with modified rules for 2 players, in which each player will control a team of 2 bandits. There is also an expert variant of the game which gives you a little bit more control over your hand and a discard pile that you can manage. And that's how to play Colt Express. We hope that you enjoyed this video and we hope you enjoy playing.
If you enjoyed this video, please help us by hitting the like button. Subscribe to us. You can also hit the Meeple in the corner to do so, and hit the bell icon so you'll be one of the first to know when we have new videos. You can also follow me on Instagram for board game photos and reviews.
And finally, if you have any questions, comments or feedback, please write them in the comment section below.
Until next time.